an article that Avner was interviewed, and where he said that, you know, in its essence, a concerto is a dramatic form, and something along the line, we lost some of this dramatic form in the last 50, 70 years. So he's adding a few theatrical elements to the piece, which I think you would be thankful that I will not tell you, because it will spoil the surprise. But the concerto starts with a seance where, you know, they are calling the ghosts of the past to come and present the case. And, you know, when you call someone from the past to come into the present, and he sees the present, he might not react the way you thought he would be. And I kind of like the present when I come from the past. And I want to stay, just like I told my friends, like with the weather over here, it would be hard to drag me away, to throw me away from here next week. But, so there is a certain narrative for the piece, and then at the end, the last movement, the name of that last movement is Exorcism, where the orchestra wants to get rid of me, but I don't want to go away. So a lot of it is happening in the piece. A lot of it is accessible, very attractive, and you will hear maybe influences of Rachmaninoff. I like to quote Michael Stern, who was the conductor who premiered the piece with me, when he said to the percussion section at one of the places where they played with me, I was playing all over the keyboard and they were accompanying me, and he talked to them and said, you have to feel that you're sitting in New York in the 1930s in the Oak Room having martini with Rachmaninoff. So that kind of communication, and I think it's a, you know, tremendous piece, and I was, you know, very fortunate to know Nir and to get to know the Santa Barbara Symphony and their vision to actually take such incredible work, which is extremely difficult. It's extraordinary when you walk on stage and you see this incredible machine, incredible instrument on your left, which is comprised by about 80 musicians, and how many instruments and colors and textures, and it's just miraculous, I think. And, you know, to be part of it, it feels very fortunate. I had a legendary teacher, his name was Leon Fleischer, and about my talking capabilities, he said, all that Alon needs is an upbeat, when he will just start talking all the time. So let me play for you something, and you know, if you have after that maybe some questions about me, about the piece, I would be thrilled to share with you. So this is a dance by an Argentinian composer called Alberto Ginastera. some questions. Not every. So in the afternoon, in a different kind of event, I played with Miwa, and a person from the audience raised her hand and she said, "Well, tell me you practice it." And I said, "Yes, we did." It was so practicing. And then just not thinking about it. You kind of know it. I mean, if you think about it, you start to worry. Will I remember? Can I do it? And also, I'm cold. I haven't tried the piano before. And then she said, just play music. Sit down and play. When did I what? The concerto by Avner Dorman that I will play on this coming weekend was premiered in November, and not last November, the one before, so November 2009. Kansas City Symphony. We had 3 concerts, and then in the spring, I think it was in April, I played it again with the Fairfax Symphony in Washington, D.C. So this is the 3rd orchestra. They say that, it's very difficult to get the first performance. It's much more difficult to get the second. So we are now on the 3rd. It's great to be here. Thank you. Yes. What do I think about when I play? I mean, it changes. It's never one thing, but there is a thinking about can be what comes next. But I don't know if it's trying to think about. No, I'm trying to. Some way. I mean, in its core, in its essence, as an artist, or we artists, I think we are, we are a vehicle, or we are at the service of the music. We are trying to bring this incredible combination of dots on the page to life. And, it's not about us, it's not about me. I don't want people to look at me, I want them to look at what happens here. So, what I think is how I can become one with the music, how I can make, the most beautiful, singing line in a lyrical place. There's also, you create a certain momentum at the beginning of a phrase or at the beginning of a piece like this, and then, okay, well, let's see how big the climax is going to be. It's somewhere where you find yourself losing your physicality and becoming to something which is much more ethereal and much less defined, and which I guess is some of the characteristics that we can call music. You can have a picture in your head if it helps. You can have a story, but these are all extra musical things. I mean, it's in its essence, because my story and your story are most likely different and equally valid. I go many times to school, and what I like to do is to play for them a piece of music. It's usually like a sonata by Beethoven, and I tell them a story which has nothing to do with the actual story of the piece. And but I really, in detail, I tell them exactly what to listen for. And then at the end, I mean, of course, 100%, they followed and they finally understood what classical music is. And, most of all, you hear the parents finally understood. They're so happy. And then I tell them that's not the correct story. But it's not true that it's not the correct. It's the idea is that music, in its essence, it has so many different stories. And the best name that Beethoven could have given his Moonlight Sonata is Opus 27, number 2. He did not call it Moonlight. It's just some publisher who wanted to sell more copies and succeeded. But, the idea that music is so many things. It's a story, it's a picture, it's a feeling, it's so many things. And all of those things are happening during the process of me playing. Now you see what I said about an upbeat and me talking? I'll play more. Thank you. This was a prelude by Chopin in F sharp major, one of the 24 preludes set that he wrote. Yes? Um, Fascinating question. It's interesting. We had a very, very successful premiere, and you know, the premiere was, they made a recording, not commercial, but they recorded the piece. We shared it with many conductors and orchestras, and it's interesting in this country. For example, if you want to get funding for commissioning a new piece, there is some sources, some places you can write to, but to play again a premiere or to play again a piece, there's not much funding for that. So some of the experiences I had is I would go and play with an orchestra, had a wonderful rapport with the symphony, with the conductor, with the audience, and then I would introduce them the concerto, and they loved it, so they commissioned Avner to write a new piece. Like, that's great, but let's do that concerto also. It's a very difficult process. You know, there are so many, I guess, in every engagement, and also as an artist, I had so many occasions when I would go to play with an orchestra, and I would get a wonderful review, and there would be a very good rapport with the community and the orchestra and the conductor, and you know, you'll not hear again for another 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and you think, well, you know, maybe it wasn't so good after all, or maybe something happened, or maybe something I said, but actually, no. It's just there's so many dominoes that need to fall at the right place for an engagement or a re-engagement or a concerto. Part of it is Nir obviously explained, you know, the programming, what will fit in the overall season, in terms of which artists we are looking for. And there's so many things, and that makes it quite difficult with a concerto. But, you know, what can happen with a piece like that? The more people will hear it, you know, the more conductors that I will send to, the more words of mouth that the audience who heard it will say. And then I have great faith and trust that the right things will happen. And sometimes, I mean, you hear about incredible pieces of music, from Brahms' first piano concerto to Beethoven's Eroica Symphony, you know, how their premiere was just the lousiest, most, you know, provocative and horrible experience. Or works like, you know, St. Matthew Passion by Bach, that at least 100 years later they suddenly been discovered by Mendelssohn, for example. For me to be actually in the process of seeing what will happen is fascinating. Honestly, I don't know. I got some wonderful surprises, like you know, coming to Santa Barbara and playing it here, I got like a bit of a disappointment where, like in Israel, it's not happening as easy as I thought it would be. I think this, you should immediately take it. But then the Israeli Philharmonic is looking for other things instead. You know, and so why, I don't know. But again, you look always beyond it. It's fine, there will be other things. It will happen, not today, next year, not next year, the following year. And just like, you know, like stay on target, just keep going. And with this piece, it's just to share it with more people. And, you know, if not the Israeli Philharmonic, we'll do it with the Jerusalem Symphony. I think the most important thing for music is to be played. The geography of where is much less interesting. Yes? I worked with him closely, but I would say that he knew my playing very, very intimately. There is one of his pieces by him, which is also on YouTube, which I played over 40 times on, you know, several recitals, was very successful. So he knew my playing very well. He knew the qualities that he liked to explore and exploit and abuse in the concerto. And but I must say that he actually, when he gave me the score for the first time, it was 3 months before the concert. So it was about 80% done. And then there were certain things that I would, you know, recommend or ask, or kind of, you know, if this is what you're after, then maybe we should try that angle. And then about 2 months before, I got the score of the second movement. And about 3 weeks before, I got the score of the third movement, which was not finished yet. So it was scary. And as you'll hear with the concerto, it is incredibly charged, and a lot of it has to get into your reflex system. And at some point, I told Avner, you know, I don't have any tics from it. Don't worry, it's fine. But I just said that don't change anything anymore, because there is no time to, you know, it's not that, okay, I'll play that note. No. I'm like a freight train right now. Once you start the piece, and as Nir can attest from our rehearsal already yesterday, I mean, it is driven, and it has incredible rhythm, incredible energy. And you know, maybe also to touch about the idea of doing the music here, 99.9% of my engagements with orchestras, I would always come the night before the first rehearsal, which will be the night before the concert. So there will be a Friday night rehearsal, Saturday night dress, and this is it. How was your concert? How was your relationship? Oh, it was wonderful. You know, I met them for 25 minutes, the length of the concerto. Nir asked me to come maybe a couple of days early and attend an extra rehearsal. In other words, I mean, the level of, I mean, we are all serious, but the level of extra mile that Nir is doing with the orchestra, and the whole orchestra is doing with this, you know, the number of interviews I had, whereas the Montecito Journal or the News Press or the KDB, or the fact that they are broadcasting the concert, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you said Chicago, Boston, I mean, Santa Barbara. I see it on the same line, absolutely. So let me play for you one last piece. It is the last movement from Beethoven's Appassionata.
Bravo, Alon. What a treat this afternoon. Thank you. So you heard him playing an Argentinian piece, let's say Polish, French, and German Beethoven. If you're interested to hear him playing some sort of Cuban music, jazz elements, Arabic dance, and a Hasidic dance, come this weekend. It's certainly there.
And as today's guests, you are invited to come to the concerts this weekend for 50% off by mentioning code BB50. So you can